From WCPO Cincinnati, this is the 9 News Watch Weekend Report with Tom Atkins.
Hello, everyone. In the news tonight, 5 people were killed last night in what Dayton, Ohio police are calling the worst homicide case in that city's history. 26-year-old Tia Talbot returned to her mother's home after a shopping trip to find her mother, her sister's children, and 4 of her own children beaten and shot. But one of her children survived unharmed.
My mother, best friend in the world. I lost my kids, my sister, 5 members of my family. The rest of them will be scarred for life.
When police arrived on the scene last night, 4 of the victims were dead. Another child died on the way to the hospital. The other 3 children remain hospitalized, 2 in critical condition tonight. The police were shocked by the brutality of the attack.
I've been on the police department. It's the worst incident of this nature I've ever seen. We've never had a multiple death situation like this involving homicidal acts.
Today, 31-year-old Sammy Moreland was charged with 5 counts of aggravated murder and 3 counts of attempted aggravated murder. Police say Moreland lived in the house, but investigators aren't sure what touched off the murder spree. Hamilton's mayor says he's willing to make room for a new Ohio prison if Cincinnati doesn't want it. Cincinnati councilmen are opposed to plans for the minimum security facility because it would be built too close to family homes. But Hamilton Mayor George McNally says his city would welcome the $14 million project. The new prison is needed to avoid overcrowding at other Ohio state prisons. A national jail consultant has a somewhat controversial idea to relieve jail overcrowding in Kentucky. David Bennett says Kentucky's counties should stop arresting and jailing people for public drunkenness. Bennett says up to half the inmates in some counties are there because of alcohol-related offenses. Bennett's report also showed that many prisoners were forced to stay in jail until their trials because they were denied bond or they couldn't make bond. A pep rally in the Green Hills Forest Park School District today, a rally that united 2 schools which just faced off on the gridiron last night. The battle today was against a common enemy, supporters of something known as Issue 31. The issue would repeal a levy passed last winter and could endanger both the academics and the extracurricular activities in the district. Abbe Eaton reports.
Actions speak louder than words. That was a lesson well learned this afternoon among the crowd on Green Hills Commons. Over 100 students from both Green Hills and Forest Park High Schools held an election pep rally of sorts. They're out to defeat Issue 31, a proposal they believe threatens their education. If Issue 31 passes, it would mean losing $1.8 million a year, money raised by a levy the school district won just last February.
We'll lose like a lot of sports programs. We'll lose teacher salaries will be cut drastically, and when you don't have quality teacher salaries, then you don't get the quality of teachers, so your education drops.
If voted down, the school's budgets and programs would stay the same.
Today certainly isn't a first for Forest Park and Green Hill students. Over the past few years, they've started a tradition of getting involved in the issues that affect them.
I feel if you're not involved in your school, then your school, it's nothing, because that is part of your future.
I think really there's a lot of pride and spirit this year, and we're really concerned about ourselves in this levy not passing.
School officials, of course, support the students' efforts and agree that all aspects of academics and extracurricular activities could be affected if Issue 31 passes. But what happens next to the blue and green of Forest Park and Green Hills is now out of the hands of the students and into those of the voters. Abbe Eaton, Channel 9 News Watch.
And coming up on the News Watch Weekend Report, more eyes on the sky at the Greater Cincinnati Airport and some outside help to stay warm inside this winter. Stay with us. Some of that tainted riunite wine has turned up in Indiana. The bottles are contaminated with diethylene glycol, a chemical used in antifreeze. Federal inspectors only found problems with the Riunite Rosato in Indiana. The lot numbers are 112RE for the 750 milliliter size and 3321BR for the 1.5 liter bottles. The following bottles of Bianco, Lambrusco, and Spumante are also being pulled off the shelves. Investigators believe the chemical, which is used to help cool wine barrels, seeped into the wine while it was being processed. Chilly winter temperatures are slowly creeping up on us, but for 200 families in greater Cincinnati, cold temperatures may not be as difficult to brave. Over 120 volunteers spent the day modernizing and weatherizing homes for the elderly and disabled. And Debra Snell is here with the warm details. Deb?
Tom, volunteers from Cincinnati Gas, Electric, and Union Light Heat and Power Company spent the day insulating pipes, putting up weather stripping, and plastic window coverings. The warm-up project, that's what they're calling it, sponsored by the utility companies and the group called People Working Cooperatively, has been helping hundreds of elderly and disabled people for 2 years now. People like Catherine Hoffman in northern Kentucky. 82-year-old Catherine Hoffman can't afford high heating costs on her $500 monthly budget. So it's not surprising that she was thrilled to have people come weatherize her home free of charge, especially when she knew their help would translate into a lower gas and electric bill.
My only income is my Social Security, and it's necessary to save whenever possible.
There are many days when Hoffman goes without heat in order to save money. She stays warm by wearing sweaters and using her Afghans, but she admits that blankets aren't always enough when the weather affects her arthritis.
With arthritis, you must have heat, and that's my main reason for the Afghans, keep my legs, limbs warm at all times.
Why not just turn up the heat?
Well, it would cost more money.
Hoffman says she hasn't had her home weatherized in years. She lives alone and has no one to insulate her pipes or put on weather stripping, and hiring a professional was out of the question.
I think it's wonderful that they volunteer their time because the work is hard. That's not easy work they're doing.
We're just happy that we can do this for her, and I'm hopeful that it'll save her a few dollars on her gas bill.
Saving $10 may not seem like a lot of money, but for Hoffman, who lives on $500 a month, it can mean an extra meal or two. Tom?
Great story. I hope it saves her even more.
They're helping a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Deb. Still to come on the Newswatch Weekend Report, Anthony James with sports and finding a safe place to stash your savings. Stay with us. Well, AJ, if you stuck your head out the window and pointed an ear toward Columbus, you could probably hear them celebrating up there, the noise level.
They're dancing in the streets tonight. The #1 team of the nation has fallen, and they did it without the franchise buyers. That's what amazes me. Great game. The last time the Iowa Hawkeyes won in Ohio Stadium was in 1959, long before the participants in today's clash were born. So you could almost say the Hawkeyes had a score to settle in addition to protecting their #1 ranking. But in Ohio Stadium, they knew the going would be tough as Iowa falls 22-13 to Ohio State. The franchise keep buyers on the sidelines. The Buckeyes went to the air. Carcedo scoring 21 yards to wide up Jim Elise down to the 27-yard line. The drive would stall as they would have to settle for a 28-yard field goal by Rich Spangler. The Buckeyes get 2 more when Ronnie Gordon charges untouched from the right side to bust up the punt and record the safety. In the second, Woolridge breaks several tackles and busts into the open field. 57 yards later, he's in the end zone for the touchdown, and it's 15-0 Buckeyes. Now, the Hawkeyes would get on the board with less than a minute to play in the first half, courtesy of a 3-yard run by Ronnie Harmon. In the fourth, with the rains coming down, Wooden goes over the top. The 2-point conversion was missed as Ohio State upsets #1 ranked Iowa 22-13. Well, after being denied a touchdown for 2 seasons by Central Michigan, the Redskins cracked the end zone twice and hold on to a 19-14 win. The Redskins up their record to 4-1-1 in the MAC. Central falls to 4-2. The UC Bearcats were given some time to allow their wounds to heal as they were idle this weekend. The Bearcats will be back to work on Monday in preparation for Saturday's game against the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Next week will be UC's homecoming. Okay, the college top 20 looks this way. #2 Florida, a 14-10 winner over Auburn. It was Penn State over Boston College, 16-12. Michigan and Illinois fight to a 3-all tie. Nebraska, a big winner over Kansas State, 41-3. Air Force over San Diego State, 31-10. Oklahoma, a big winner over Kansas, 48-6. In the third quarter of play, Florida State leading Miami, Florida by a score of 24-21. Oklahoma State over Colorado, 14-11. Arkansas beats Rice, 30-15. LSU shuts out Mississippi, 14-0. It was BYU in the third quarter leading Wyoming, 59-0. And in the Georgia-Tulane game, freshman Tim Worley does the damage, rushing for 3 touchdowns as Georgia beats Tulane 58-3. Tennessee a 40-0 winner over Rutgers. Kentucky beats East Tennessee State 23-13. Louisville a 42-21 winner over Southern Florida. In the third quarter of play, Notre Dame leads Navy by a score of 27-10. Well, 82 of the best thoroughbreds in the world participated in a 7-race classic this afternoon at the Aqueduct. Of course, all this climaxing with a $3 million Breeders' Cup Classic. Big bucks were on the line, not to mention Horse of the Year honors. Among the favorites, Chief's Crown and Gate Dancer. Here's the stretch call.
Right there, Gate Dancer is closing boldly on the outside. Proud Trophy was last down the backstretch. He's taking it to the leader. It's Gate Dancer in front with less than a furlong to run. Proud Troop is right at his hip. Proud Troop on the outside. Gate Dancer is game. Proud Troop ahead. Gate Dancer goes to a driving finish. Proud Troop has won it.
What a finish. Gate Dancer was second.
Whew. And big game tomorrow, Buffalo.
Buffalo, the Bills. Remember what happened last season? 52? Nothing?
Yeah. Well, let's do it again. What the heck?
Final game of the season.
Thank you. Got it. The U.S. government will have to depend on the Social Security Trust Fund to pay its bills all weekend long. Congress heading home late last night without reaching an agreement over a balanced budget amendment to the bill raising the national debt limit. Paul Strassels has some of the other financial headlines out of Washington this week, including a look at a proposal which would make it easier to stash away your savings.
We reported here last week that tax reform legislation is stalled. Over the past week, the House Ways and Means Committee has made some headlines, but not much headway. In fact, they actually cut taxes a bit, and as something the government can't afford. The outlook at this point, tax law changes could be passed by March or April of next year at the earliest. No one wants to keep their money in a failing bank, but how's a person to know just how stable a financial institution is? If the comptroller of the currency has its way, there'll be a way to find out. Under a new proposal, federally chartered banks will have to disclose information about service charges and fees, as well as make available a balance sheet and income statement upon request. They'll also have to provide certain key financial ratios that would provide you with an overall picture of the bank's financial health. Armed with that information, you'll have an opportunity to determine whether or not you want to keep your money in a particular bank. And finally, it seems as though nothing is free anymore. Even the Small Business Administration, which for years has offered its expertise free of charge, has decided to put a price tag on its advice. It now charges up to $12 an hour for its training programs. Plus, you have to pay for SBA pamphlets when you order by mail. The only remaining bright spot is that the pamphlets are free if you drop by the local office. At least for the time being. From Washington, this is Paul Strassels for 9 News Watch.
Well, Bill Myers, it was kind of a dreary gray day, but it was not cold. It was not all that bad, really.
The mildness has been okay. It's been a dreary gray week.
Yeah, it really has.
I got a note from Bob Allen over here in the office when I came in today. See what you can do about this rain.
Even Bob Allen's on me about it. Well, little did we think last weekend that Hurricane Juan would make our week generally dismal, but it did, and it's not over yet. We'll talk about that in a moment. Stay with us. Well, we're at 53 degrees, not much different from anything else we've had all day. Humidity right up there, 96%. Wind from the west at 7 miles per hour. The barometer, 29.80, and it is rising, and the wind is from the west at 7 miles per hour. The most we could muster on the warm side today was 61 degrees, and that was shortly after midnight. Our low occurred mid-morning. It was 54 degrees. And, in fact, our 53, now I guess at this point, puts us at the official low. Well, normally we'd have a high of 59 and a low of 38. The record's 82 and 23 on this date back in history. So we're running on the normal side just about. River, 26 and 3/10 feet. It, too, is stationary. Temperature is pretty consistent throughout the tri-state area with 53 here in Cincinnati, and temperatures right on up the way, pretty much in the 50s. A little warmer to the east of us with Huntington at 61. And, again, mid-50s to the south of us. So, as I say, pretty consistent. A little cooler to the north and west of us as the winds are more northwesterly in Chicago and above that at Milwaukee. Taking a look at radar now, most of the rain is actually to the east of us, despite what the satellite photograph might indicate. As you can see, mostly south of Dayton and Columbus. Just little scattered patches and some just over the river in the northeastern part of Kentucky. We'll continue to have those little breakouts of sprinkles and then fading away again throughout the evening hours tonight. Taking a look at the national radar at this time, most of the heavy precipitation is still concentrated in the remains of Juan, although the low pressure, which is centered up in Michigan, is the official remains of Juan. Also to the east of us, some heavier showers in the western portions of Pennsylvania, and some rather high winds also along the mid-Atlantic coast. To the north and west, some rather heavy rains occurred in northwestern Washington and parts of western Montana and northern Idaho during the afternoon. Taking a look at the satellite map, doesn't look like the folks in the eastern half of the country had much of a day in terms of sunshine, and certainly that's true. This cool front here is simply not going to make much progress. If it gets to Pennsylvania by Monday, it'll be doing good, according to all indications right at the moment. Also, this blows cranky and 40-mile-per-hour winds in southern Virginia. This high you'd think would be benevolent, but unfortunately it's not going to work in terms of decent weather for us. We're still expecting northwesterly breezes and fairly cool temperatures, mid-40s tonight, during the day tomorrow, only into the low to mid-50s. Our forecast calls for continued cloudy skies tonight and cool with a 40% chance of rain, low temperature in the mid to upper 40s. During the day tomorrow, we continue rain likely with a 60% chance, and the high temperature reasonably mild, but still not great, low 50s. Tomorrow night, slight chance of rain, cooler as those northwesterlies get a little more influential, temperature 35 to 40. As for Monday, just a slight chance of rain. We're down to 30% on Monday, but still a risk, and still cool.
And that's the early edition of the Newswatch Weekend Report. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tonight at 11 with the story of the Salvation Army's centennial celebration. You'll find out what this special group does in the 11 other months when they aren't out ringing those famous Christmas bells. Join us then. Stay tuned now for the CBS Evening News with Bob Schieffer.